Yes, what's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. This is a quick rerun of last night's live stream looking at Celtic's financial results, which were released last night. We had huge audio problems on the live stream, which is why we had to abort it. So sack the board, I say, on this channel after that shambles last night. But we are here to look at the financial results. As I say, they were released last night. I said in the starting 11 prediction, I don't know if you've already watched it, but I said after unveiling Barrowfield, they'll probably slide the financial results right off the back of that. And that's what they did. They put them out a couple of hours after unveiling that Barrowfield was finished. It's very, very predictable. The Celtic PR machine, I think they knew how these results would be interpreted given everything that's happened this summer. Let's look at the headline numbers, which are on your screen now. I'm sure most of you have seen them already. Revenue increased by 15% to £143.6 million. That's record revenue in the history of Celtic. Operating expenses up 11% to £117 million. Gain on sale of player registrations, that's selling players of £31.5 million, sorry. An acquisition of player registrations, which is buying players of £38.6 million. Remember, this is up until the 30th of June 2025. And then the huge numbers below that, the profit numbers before tax of £45.7 million. Wow. After tax, 33.9, up from 13.4 in the previous financial year. That's a jump of 153% in profits, and the year-end cash at bank £77.3 million, up only 100 grand from that of the year before. So those numbers are eye-watering. As I say, it's record revenue for Celtic. I think we knew that this was in the post. I think that was part of the agitation all summer about how mishandled the transfer business was. And then when you come to the end of the window and everything that happens and off the back of it unfolds as well, we have this statement which is sort of justifying the current setup and the current structure that the club and the way that the club does things. They allude to the UEFA squad cost regulations, the financial sustainability regulations that UEFA have in place, and this lays bare the fact that was all misleading. We've got almost £144 million in revenue. To breach the squad cost rule of 70%, we'd need to be spending £100 million on transfer fees, wages, and agents' fees. Now, as we all knew, we're nowhere near that. The club are using that to justify the way they do things. But the problem for Celtic is the way they do things constantly results in this cycle where they have this self-fulfilling prophecy that they build up huge cash reserves, use them inefficiently, but what they'll tell you they're doing is we're saving them for the next time we don't make the Champions League, because they'll not prepare for making the Champions League. They won't put a structure in place that will get recruitment done in a timely and efficient manner to allow Celtic to navigate Champions League qualifiers. That's what history tells you. Over the last 10 to 15 years, we've failed, I think 7 times out of 9, is it? We've failed the last 5 times in a row to navigate Champions League qualifiers, and it's always down to getting good recruitment done on time when the qualifiers come around. Now, I don't think there's any excuse for a football club with these resources not to be progressive, not to be forward-thinking, not to adopt best practice like other European football clubs of a similar size across the continent are doing. I think that's why there's huge agitation and a huge groundswell, huge unity among the support that change is required at boardroom level. There's absolutely no getting away from this for Celtic anymore. We've had years and years and years of good financial results, but followed up by mismanaged transfer windows, failure in getting business done on time. And that's not just about the resources. Celtic made the point in the statement that it would be irresponsible to throw money at transfer fees and contracts, and that's not what the support wants. It's certainly not what I'm implying here. I know that they're sitting on huge sums of money, but we're not asking them to go and spend it all on players and contracts and put the club in a dangerous financial position. But what we expect is for them to be progressive, for them to be forward thinking, for them, as I say, to adopt similar structures to like what most football clubs have across Europe now. We looked at loads of examples. We have talked about loads of examples over the last 10 years. It used to be Ajax, and people would pick holes in that and say, well, you can't compare us to Ajax because they've got the youth academy, they charge fortunes for players that come through that, and sometimes they don't win the league. Would we be happy with no winning the league and whatever else? Club Brugge are the most recent example, and the comparisons have almost become cliche already, but they are doing so many things right on and off the pitch. I put a lot of time this week into reading about Club Brugge and what they're doing. Maybe make a separate video on that actually, and we'll try and find one or two other clubs who are doing forward-thinking, innovative things on and off the pitch in a similar way to what we think Celtic should be. We'll maybe do that over the next couple of months. That I think that'd be a good video series. But anyway, Club Brugge, they have really changed what they've been doing over the last 10 years, and that's paying dividends on the pitch. I think they've got an Insights and Innovations Director that handles communication between the supporters and the club, and they always look to push that forward. They've got a head of football insights and innovation who looks at the data side of the game, and most importantly, they have a sporting director, someone who's responsible and can be held responsible for the business that the club does. Right now, Celtic have this lack of transparency where nobody knows who's really responsible for doing the transfer business, and nobody knows who's responsible for not getting these deals done all summer. You have to put it at the door of the executive, because it's not Paul Tisdale, is it? Because we've watched Lee Congert and Mark Lawwell, numerous recruitment people before come and go, and nothing changes. If they're not the people doing the deals, then it must be the people on the board who can't get it done, who can't get the business done in an efficient manner for us to navigate these games. We keep saying it till we're blue in the face. And with these resources, with this money in the bank, with these revenues, with these profits, there's absolutely no excuse not to get business done in an efficient manner. It is really inefficient, and we'll come back to looking at the sums that Celtic have paid in tax over the last 3 years in a minute, but I want to point you towards Peter Lawwell's statement now, which again, another statement full of empty platitudes. He was very keen to point out in the third paragraph that the club have spent the most money they've ever spent. The first team labour costs are the highest in the club's history. Last season was the highest single season investment in the club's history, breaking the record twice with Ida and then with Engels. And over the last 3 years to the 30th of June 25, the total investment in player registrations and agents' fees has been £77.5 million. Do you know how much Celtic have brought in selling players over the last 3 years to the 30th of June 2025? £101 million. So even though they have invested, there is still a huge, if you just isolate player trading, there's still a huge profit there. And everywhere you look, Celtic have made huge profits. And like I say again, it's not about a demand to throw this money at any player, any contract, and just spend fortunes. It's about making the best use of this money to put a structure in place that can achieve Celtic's objectives. And ultimately, yes, I know we win league titles, but can we really look at the competition that we've got in Scotland and say that they've been in a position and they've been brilliant behind the scenes and they've done everything right? We've got the biggest resources, and we find ourselves in this cycle time and time again where it breaks down and we're not able to qualify for the Champions League, and it hasn't changed. So when Peter Lawwell says, bring it back up, the board shares the ambition of our supporters, we don't believe you. Like, the trust is broken, it's gone. These empty words and statements mean nothing. They've never meant anything, but particularly right now, there is no repairing this relationship. We don't believe you. It's just not the case. There's nothing to prove that's the case. The club is still doing the same things and making the same mistakes like they have been for the last 10, 15 years. And further down he says, we recognise and share the frustration and disappointment of supporters with respect to the timing of some of the incoming acquisitions. We don't care. We don't care that you share the frustration and disappointment. We don't want you to share the frustration and disappointment. We want change. We will always look to improve how we operate and overcome challenges where possible. How many years have Celtic been telling us that they'll look to improve how they operate and overcome challenges? And yet here we are. Like I say, 10, 12 years later, still making the same mistakes, still being inefficient in the transfer market, still unable to get players in time for Champions League qualifiers for 10 years. These words mean absolutely nothing. And let's take a more detailed look then at the profit figures. As I say, a huge 153% increase from the previous financial year. But the number there highlighted the tax expense of £11.7 million is astronomical. That in itself, we talk about the record spend last summer, breaking the transfer record twice. That's more money than Celtic have ever spent in a footballer in their history, and they've paid it to the taxman in profits. And to come back to Peter Lawwell's point about spending £77.5 million over the last 3 years in investment in players, in the last 3 years to the taxman, Celtic have paid £23.5 million. That's a hell of a lot of money for a Scottish football club to be paying in tax. That's the money that's left over after everything's paid. You've posted huge profits and you've had to pay over the last 3 years nearly £24 million in tax. That to me is inefficiency. And I think it's clear that there wasn't a detailed and clear enough plan for how Celtic were going to use the resources that they were about to build up from back-to-back seasons in the Champions League. Three back-to-back seasons in the Champions League. I know we had to win league titles, but we were gradually building it up. We knew that winning the league secured that qualification, and there should have been plans in place to utilise these funds. But instead, we've sat on them, and like I say, we've embarked on the next repetition, the next phase of this prophecy that we'll just need to keep that money in the bank so that when we don't make the Champions League qualifiers because we haven't planned and prepared well enough or put in a modern structure in place, then we'll need that money to fill the black hole that Champions League qualification will leave. I mean, as a strategy, the fans are sick of it. The fans are absolutely sick of it. And I think when these numbers come out, it only compounds it. We don't want to see that Celtic have posted £45 million in profit or after tax £34 million in profit. What does that mean for the supporters? We're the primary funders of the football club. We're the people who put our hand in our pocket time and time again, season after season. And we don't want that money to just sit in the bank doing nothing when the stadium could be improved. And yes, they've made some small investments in the stadium in terms of improving the tunnel, putting new dugouts in. These are probably negligible fees in the context of the sums we're looking at on this profit and loss. There's lots more they should have done. There's lots more they could do. Michael Nicholson alludes to some more capital investment in his statement. But the reality is now the landscape has changed. We've missed out on the Champions League this season, and now there's even more excuse for them not to spend money next season. And this is the cycle. This is the self-fulfilling prophecy that we've been on for 10, 12 years now. And like I say, it's had its day. There is nothing that the Celtic board can say to convince the supporters that this setup, this boardroom setup, how recruitment is structured, can be kept. There is nothing to say that it can be maintained or improved. It has to be overhauled. And I think there'll be an update in the next couple of days from the fans in terms of the collective action that is being taken in response to that, following on from the protest at Rugby Park last week. I expect there to be an update in the next couple of days. But like I say, the trust is broken between the board and the club, and there is no way back. There is no way back for the current setup. And I know that Dermot Desmond is maybe the crux of the matter, and it's very difficult to change that and very difficult to move Dermot Desmond as the major shareholder or the person with the single largest shareholding in the club. That's a very, very long game. But ultimately, if he can't be responsible and it's not his responsibility and there's nothing that can be done about Dermot Desmond, and how he handles his role in Celtic, then ultimately the executive team carry the can. They are the people who run the business, and like I say, time and time again, they've failed in this key objective, and they cannot sit there and tell us that this is some major achievement to have 80 million quid in the bank and have 34 million pound profit. To what end? We've just paid 12 million pound in tax. We've paid almost 24 million pound tax in the last 3 years. I mean, why? Like, that is inefficient. That is an inefficient use of the resources the club has built up. And like I say, these numbers underline why the relationship between the supporters and the board is now broken. There you go. That's it. Thank you for joining us. If you were on the live stream last night, apologies if I repeated myself, but I wanted to have a video here looking at these financial results because I did promise you that as soon as they come out, I would make a video about them. That's it for this video. That's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow after the game at Partick Thistle. Thanks for watching.